Let's be brutally honest right now. That's a big question.
I'm looking for someone who doesn't want to go to base camp, but they want to go to the very top.
Whether it's here, India, New York.
Civilization was born at happy hour.
That's what wins. That's what stands out. That's what people are interested in. That's what I want to know. The Hospopreneurs Podcast with James Henderson. Hello and welcome to episode 113 of the Hospopreneurs Podcast. During this long and challenging era for the service industry, my guest, Stevan Premutico, returns to the program with developments from his most recent tech venture, Me&u. If you missed the conversation we had back at episode 72, please go back and check it out. Stevan is undoubtedly one of the most passionate people I've met about the hospitality industry, and I'm proud to have him back on the program. To say that COVID hit hospitality hard is an understatement, and industry tech businesses like Stevan's have had to double down, pivot, or completely discard various aspects of their operations. In the episode today, Stevan explains what he means by Hospitality 2.0 and how the past 12 months have evolved rolling out Me&u. Hello, Stevan. Welcome back to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you back on today. How are you doing?
James, it's always good to chat with you, mate. Feels like we're grabbing a virtual beer together.
Yes, unfortunately, grabbing a physical beer is a little more complicated these days, and we're obviously grounded in many ways. Can't travel much of Australia as much anymore all around the world. So firstly, I want to address that. I know we've talked about that a lot on Quarantini, and I try to avoid it on Hospopreneurs because it's the overwhelming discourse at the moment. Tell me a bit more about how you've been impacted and what's been going on with you. And then we're going to explore a little bit more about what's happened since we caught up last time. So what's happening right now?
James, I think the first thing that I just want to say, and I get goosebumps as you mentioned that, but I think as an industry, we should be so bloody proud of the way that we've adapted, pivoted, and changed over the past couple of months. Like, I think everyone always said that the hospitality industry was dinosaurs and that we'd never change no matter what. But I think the past 3 months has proven that this industry is resilient, it's robust, it's full of passion and heart. And if need be, we can pivot, we can be agile, and we can do whatever it takes to keep the doors open and to survive. So I think the industry as a whole deserves a massive round of applause for continuing to survive in very difficult circumstances.
Absolutely. And it's interesting hearing that coming from you as well, because you're someone who's been in that tech space, in hospitality tech, for a lot longer than many others. So you have some incredible ways to look at things, and you would have been encouraging people to be getting behind tech for a long time. I mean, how long ago? It was 2009?
Yeah, so I think when we first started Dimmy was on the back of the GFC. So we definitely saw the impact that a downturn had on the industry at that point. Nothing compares to what the industry is going through now. And I think when we talk about tech and embracing tech, and as a company at Me&u, we're a food tech business. We believe in bringing great food, great experiences together using technology to create better moments at the table. So I think, we've always believed in tech in hospitality because we simply believe that when tech is embraced properly in hospitality, it creates a more profitable, more sustainable, and better experiences for customers. So that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve here.
Yeah, awesome. I just want to rewind for listeners who missed your first feature on the show back at episode 76. So what do you do with Me&u? Tell us about that. And when we had a conversation back then at Global Table, things were about to launch, and you had this incredible vision in your mind about what was going to happen, and then the world's thrown you a curveball, to say the least. Tell us about what has happened since Global Table back in September last year.
Yeah, wow. Time flies, James. But I think, Me&u is really simple, and we just want to change the way that Australians order and pay in cafes, restaurants, and pubs. So if you think about the past, you rock up to a pub, you would go and stand in a queue for 10 minutes to get a beer, and then you take that back to your table, you sit down for 15 minutes, and then you back up at the queue again. So I think the art of hospitality is clearly about how do we allow customers to have more magical moments at the table and not worry about the small stuff, not be worried about my next beer, splitting the bill, getting the payment, all that stuff. So Me&u is really simple. Customers rock up at a venue, they tap Billy the Beacon that's sitting in the middle of the table, and they get a beautiful visual menu on their phone, just like Instagram. And from that point forward, I can order and I can pay directly through my phone. And a couple of minutes later, your beer and your pizzas arrive at the table. So the magic is that you're still at your table, you're still connected with your friends and family, you haven't lost time in the queue, and the wait staff is still there, but they're playing the role of the host rather than simply taking your orders and worrying about how you're going to make the payment.
Yes, and we went quite deep into the philosophy behind hosts and that back and forth and what was going to happen with more tech coming into the industry. It's kind of scary, even the fact that we talked about that and now we're seeing that happen. So anyone who's interested in that, please go back to 76 and have a listen to that episode, the first interview I did with Stevan. And I want to bring up here, I used Me&u once so far. I've interacted with your product at 6s and 7s.
Only once, James.
Yeah, I know. I'm disappointed. It's only been once. But look, I haven't been out much. I've been trying to have this balance between support the industry and stay safe. And so that's been a lot of the struggle for a lot of operators going through this, that they're saying, I want to survive and I want people to buy from me. And in the first wave, because we're experiencing this second interesting wave that's come through, and Melbourne is just in dire straits, right? But I'm up in Brisbane, so it's quite different up here. Having said that, I have interacted with Me&u on one occasion so far. I am disappointed, but I know it will be the first of many. And that was at 6s and 7s with a couple of friends there to grab a drink, which was nice. So at least we can do that in Brisbane, and I very much enjoyed it. So anyone out there, if you haven't seen Me&u already, you're going to see it soon. It is this order at the table service oriented business, and a lot of businesses are moving that way too. There's obviously this activity around that. Some people have apps, some people have browsers, some people have, now you've actually got tech at the table. What is that going to look like as things consolidate moving forward? It's so hard to predict, but I would love to hear your opinion on that one, Stevan.
It's a fascinating point, and I think, at Me&u, we truly believe that the art of hospitality is about getting rid of the small stuff, the stuff that frustrates customers during an ordering experience and, during our experiences in venues. So if you play that out, we all know the pain points, right? So the first big pain point is standing in a long queue waiting to order a beer. It sucks. The second pain point is then fumbling around to work out how you're going to pay. And clearly, even more than that is when you want to split the bill amongst four mates, who's paying, who had what. It's just tedious. And I think the final bit on top of that is we've always been into venues and you stare at a menu and you go, wow, like what's good? What should I have? So I think Me&u simply tries to tackle all of those points. And the world that we see, cast it forward a couple of years, is that customers rock up to a venue, they sit down, and then from that point forward, they're there with their mates and their family at the table. And the small stuff, crap that we hate on the edges, is gone. The host meets you and greets you and knows you by your first name. The menu, when you check in, is personalized to James because we know you're a gin and tonic drinker. Preferred gin is 4 pillars, and then the entire experience is happening at the table. You're not losing somebody to the queue every 15 minutes. So I think that's a world that we see. And we truly believe that technology, if it's done properly, and I think that's a critical bit, if it's done properly, can ultimately play a significant role in creating a more profitable, more sustainable industry that delivers better customer experiences. So that's the mission that we're on, and that's what we're trying to help the industry do. And I think, now is a critical time because COVID has given every customer and every operator across the planet a reason to change. So whilst in the past we would have been scared to embrace tech or to force change upon our customers, COVID has given us a reason or an excuse or a platform to just force change and to create better experiences and more profitable experiences for our businesses.
Stevan, I want to tie this into a point that you've made previously about the other side and hospitality 2.0. Can you tell us a bit about what that actually means and link that in with Me&u and how you're catering to that in this post-COVID world?
Wow. So, I think at Me&u, we always believed that there was hospitality 2.0, and that is sad because if you think about this industry, even before COVID, it was an industry that was hurting, right? So labor costs are the highest on the planet. in Australia. Food bills and the cost of electricity and the cost of food is only increasing. So the ability to operate a successful business in this country is hard. So I think we've always said there's got to be a better way for operators to create a better, more sustainable, more profitable business. And then I think what COVID's done is it's forced everybody overnight to rethink the way they operate. And there's probably three major things that we've seen change in the past 3 months. So I think the first thing that we've absolutely seen change is that operators across the country are all going from big, fat, complicated menus to really short, simple menus. I think that's definitely the first thing that we're seeing. And that's great. For consumers, it means less choice, but more focused choice. But it ultimately is going to help us create a more profitable business. So I think that's definitely the first one. The second thing that we're seeing, and this always happens in times of recession and depression, there is an absolute focus on value for money. So consumers are going to be more price sensitive than ever. So we're definitely seeing a movement in the industry where operators are, what we say, starting small but ending high. So whilst a lot of operators have reduced the average price of their items, they're doing a lot of great work on upsells and cross sells to really make sure that the average check at the end is actually higher, but the perception to the customer is actually lower to start with. So there's a lot more add-ons and cross sells and stuff that's ultimately driving a higher check size in a world where customers are more price sensitive than ever. And I think the final one that we're absolutely seeing is on the consumer side. Consumer habit has changed. And what would normally have taken 3 years has happened in 3 months. So we're absolutely seeing a massive migration towards a cashless economy, more so in hospitality than ever. And we're definitely seeing a movement towards a touchless economy. And so customers are nervous about standing in queues. They're nervous about touching menus. And ultimately, more than ever, they're nervous about touching cash. So I think through the platform, what we're seeing now, and it's crazy, and I'd say that Australia is one of the highest on the planet here, is that we're seeing about 70% of all payments now are being made with Apple Pay or Google Pay. So I don't even need a wallet. I'm rocking up. I'm ordering $100 of food and drinks. Bang, I pay with Apple Pay and away we go. No need for a wallet to fumble around for your cash any longer, which is great for customers because it's convenient. But ultimately, the more cashless this industry becomes, the more sustainable and ultimately the more profitable it will also be.
There are a couple of points on cashless economies or this, cashless economy of the future that I want to open up a little more because it does create other complications as well. And a lot of hospitality is attractive because of its cash-based system. It does attract a lot of the wrong people as well for illegal activities too, because they can operate with cash. So that makes people more accountable, which is excellent. That's a great thing. But the fluidity of the industry too, and having rock stars, and for those who don't know, a rock star is essentially someone who comes in on a one-off and does a shift and then they get paid in cash and they leave, which is obviously frowned upon. And I think it is technically not legal to do. But it's what the industry relies on a lot of the time for last minute services. And there are applications that do play to that. I won't mention any specifically, but there are some applications out there that do play to that. So maybe they're going to thrive. Not sure what's going to happen there if we do go more cashless. There is actually a risk in having no cash in the economy. And this is something that's actually, and you've brought it up at an excellent time. There's a conversation happening around that right now with central banks talking about having their own digital currencies, moving to a cashless system. I want to present the case where if someone can't open a bank account, how do they actually earn a dollar?
James, can I just talk to the first point for a sec? I think you raise a fascinating point. And I think you're absolutely right that this industry, everyone's playing in this industry. I do truly believe that a cashless economy creates a more transparent industry. And ultimately what we'll see is a more level playing field to make sure that everyone is being compliant and everyone is playing by the rules. And it's not fair that the majority of businesses playing by the rules, but some are not. So if that means that it creates a hospitality industry that is level and fair and more transparent, then ultimately I think that's a much more honest and better industry for everyone. So I think it will absolutely create a more level playing field and a more transparent playing field for everyone. there's a significant amount of additional benefits with the cashless economy. Forget the hygiene benefits of it. It reduces fraud. There's significant savings because you don't need to take your cash to the bank every day or once a week. So there's a whole bunch of additional things that come with that. And yes, there's always downside of any material movement. But I think when it comes to cashless within this industry, and it's fair to say we're still 5 to 10 years away from that, it will result in a more transparent, a more fair and honest playing field for everybody. And I think that is a great thing for this industry.
Yeah, the point that you bring up there is there's no two ways about that. It will make it more fair, more honest and transparent. I don't think anyone can really argue against that one.
James, I think the reality is it's happening anyway. If you think about the younger generation coming through, they don't have credit cards. They definitely don't carry cash. Everything they do, and especially in Australia, we're a tap and go culture. So when we're getting our coffee in the morning, we're tapping our phone. When we're getting onto the train, we're tapping our Opal card. So everything we're doing is like tap, charge, tap, charge, tap, charge. And I think that creates a habit, and that's just a natural evolution that I think broader economy is going through, and hospitality will be part of that rise.
Thanks for bringing that one to the forefront as well, Steven. I'm glad you did. I'm finding it coincidental because I'm actually working with one of the big four banks at the moment. There are a few people in the office backing cryptocurrencies, and there are all sorts of things going on. And that's a whole other conversation that we don't have to go into quite as deeply today. But I know some listeners are interested in those things. So please get in touch with me if you want to have a conversation more directly. But Steven, I'm interested to know, I don't believe I asked you this question in the first interview. If you go to a dinner party and someone asks you who you are, how do you define yourself?
Wow, that's a great question. I'd say that at the heart of who I am, I'm somebody who's passionate about solving problems. I'm passionate about making industries better. And ultimately, at the end of the day, 50 years from today, I want to be able to sit down with my kids and my grandkids over a beer and say that I made the world better in some small way. So I think that's my own internal ambitions. And part of that was a ride I went through with Dimmy, where we tried to change the way Aussies book restaurants. And now at Me&u, where we're trying to change the way Australians order and pay in venues. Yeah, I think it all starts, James, with there's a problem. And what's the big problem that you're trying to solve? And I think more than anything else, I'd consider myself a problem solver. And the problem that I could never get my head around is, why can I get an Uber to my house to come and take me down the road faster than I can order a beer in a pub? And I think once I was clear on that problem, it was like gold. Let's go and solve that problem. Because if you can solve that problem, you make, just like Uber Rides, definitely not Uber Eats, but Uber Rides has made life so much easier for people and more beautiful. I think we can do the same in hospitality. So that's, I think, as I'm breaking bread around the table, if I am to describe who I am, I think at the heart, I love to solve problems. I want to use tech to make the world a little bit better.
Fantastic. And we've seen that once through Dimmy, and then the merger or the sale of Dimmy to The Fork. And now with Me&u, it's very exciting with what's going on at the moment. We've seen you move very quickly and working with some incredible businesses around Australia already. I noticed recently you were posting about hiring for a couple of roles. Can you tell us about that? Are you still looking for anyone at the moment, for any listeners out there who might be looking for a job at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think there's a whole bunch of roles going at Me&u, and business is growing very quickly. So I think we're recruiting for a couple of roles right next to you in Queensland. We're recruiting for some roles across Melbourne and Perth. So yeah, I think more than anything else, a business is made up of the exceptional talent that you have around you. And I think at Me&u, I'm very fortunate to have an exceptional board of directors and set of investors, people who believe in us to help us make this dream a reality. And then I think bigger than anything else, my simple and single focus role as a leader of Me&u is to help find great talent. And I'm blessed to have an exceptional bunch of people in the business now. And yes, we're always on the hunt for great, you used the word rock stars before, we're always on the lookout for great new rock stars to join the Me&u family.
Fantastic. Now that things are moving forward, what does success look like in a consolidated market in this particular space? Do you see yourself with 20%, 30% market share, 50 more?
That's a fascinating question. I think when COVID hit, I think it forced us to rethink what success looked like. And I think at that time, it was so easy for Me&u to pivot into pick up and takeaway because there was money and there was opportunity there. And honestly, a whole bunch of our major accounts were saying, let's go and do pick up and takeaway. And that stretch from where Me&u is now into that space, it's a short step. It's a very short step. We chose not to do that because as a team, we felt that it was incumbent on us and it was an obligation on us to not focus and not play where the money was, but instead to play and to make sure that Me&u was best positioned, that when the industry was ready to open their doors again, that Me&u was able to help. So we chose not to get into pick up and takeaway, and we decided to double down and make sure that when the doors opened and when our partners were ready to open the doors again post-COVID, that we could help them. So I think when I look at success, the fact that we can help our partners serve customers better, faster, more conveniently, and most importantly, safer right now, that's something I'm super proud of. If I go forward 3 years and let's play the card forward a bit, success for me looks like Australians have changed the way they order. When I'm rocking up to a venue, my menu is personalized based on my history. I don't have to go up and stand in a queue. I'm spending more time at the table with family and friends. And it's just easy. It's slick. It's beautiful. And you're sitting there and you're breaking bread and you're spending more time on the connection, the rapport, the magic that happens in hospitality, not losing 10 minutes to the queue and 5 minutes to working out how you're going to split the bill. That's the shit that I want to get rid of to make hospitality experiences more magical and more fun.
Beautiful. I think I'm going to leave that as my last question for you today. Steven, is there anything else that you'd like to leave listeners with before we go?
No, man, I just think it's truly, clearly very tough and challenging time for everybody in this space right across the planet. And I do hold true to the belief that there is a silver lining here. And I think the industry has been so resilient, so strong, and we should applaud the industry for how brave and how remarkable they've been through this very challenging time. I just keep coming back to the original belief, and that is that COVID will present new opportunities and present opportunities for us to change, innovate, and hopefully create a better industry on the other side. So I think as we continue to fight our way through this, let's ultimately try and look at how can we create a more sustainable business, a more profitable business, and ultimately a better industry on the other side as we ride the storms that are presented to us by COVID.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Steven. Really appreciate you being back on the show, taking the time. I know that you're super busy and that the world is in constant flux at the moment. So thank you very much.
Thank you, James. All the best, buddy.
This program is hosted by James Henderson with technical production by Jake Olver. Voiceovers were by Angus Brennan and Shim Phelan. Thanks to our distribution team, led by Stephanie Holland, and a special thanks to you for tuning in every week. This program was produced by H Media. We'll see you soon.